Welcome back. You're listening to Get Real with Bob and Stacy here on the Money Matters Radio Network. Joining us for a second Leaders and Legends segment today, we have a very special guest on the line with us, Steve Repak. Steve is a certified financial planner, Army veteran, financial literacy speaker, and author of the 6-Week Money Challenge for your personal finances. Welcome to the show, Steve.
Bob, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
So Steve has helped countless people turn their finances around with this financial literacy presentations and his books. Can you tell us a little bit about your background and your past experiences with debt? Like, how did an Army veteran in an enormous amount of debt later become completely debt-free and blessed with a successful career as a financial planner?
Stacey, that's a great question. I come from humble beginnings. My mom and dad, we just didn't have a lot of money. I don't ever remember being hungry or anything. We always had a shelter over our heads, but we just didn't have a lot of money. And so I joined the military right out of high school. And with the military, your housing is paid for, your clothes is paid for, food's paid for, everything is paid for. But I always seemed to live paycheck to paycheck. And I got my first Star card. It's like a military credit card. It had like a $500 spending limit, and I had that thing maxed out before my signature was even dry on back of the card, right? And throughout the career, I just kept on thinking, I didn't have any type of, financial problems. As long as I can make the minimum payments on my credit card, that all my finances were okay. And I always said, if I could just make more money, I could get out of debt. And throughout my career, I would get promoted, I would make more money, then I would get a credit card that would offer me more to charge on. And after 12 years of service, I left the Army with over $32,000 worth of credit card debt.
Wow.
And so when I got out of the military, what was so ironic, I got a job in finance. So my job was to give other people financial advice, and mine were just a mess. I mean, they were it was just terrible. And so what I started doing is I started noticing certain things. Like, when I was growing up, I thought the only people that had money were, doctors, attorneys, people that won the lottery. I'm like, regular people can't accumulate wealth. And, I was noticing that the people that I worked with, they were just regular people, people that worked at Walmart, retired military, people, school teachers, people that just didn't make a lot of money, but they were able to save a lot. And so I started following the same stuff that they did. And, the first thing is, they all spent less money than what they made. And so what I had to start doing is I had to start tracking my expenditures. And once I figured out that, hey, gosh, I'm wasting all this money here or there, I was able to, cut it out, build my savings, and then eventually get out of credit card debt. But it was one of those painful lessons that I wish I would have learned at a much younger age.
Right. So for people that are listening, I think there's so many people listening right now that feel like they right now are in the position you were in when you got out of the Army. They're living paycheck to paycheck. They're in an enormous amount of debt. Is there hope for them to get out of debt in 2016? And how can your new book, 6-Week Money Challenge, help them take action on reducing debt in the new year?
Yes, everybody has hope. It just comes down to changing behaviors, and that's what my issue was. Is that it wasn't that I didn't know how that I was stupid or anything. It was just that my behaviors were wrong. I just spent more money than what I made, and that's what gets a lot of us into trouble. Is that we're always buying the next thing that's going to make us happy, and it doesn't make us happy for long, and we're back out there charging again. So for people that are in debt and feel like they have no hope, I had $32,000 worth of credit card debt and was able to get out of it. And there's people that I've worked that have a lot more and were able to pay it off. It's just one of those things that, it seems so overwhelming in that you just have to remember that I didn't get into credit card debt overnight, and I can't get out of it overnight, and so I have to start chunking a little bit at a time. And my book talks about, the 6-Week Money Challenge. It talks about, how do I track my expenditures? How do I identify wasteful spending? And it gives you these challenges each week. And it's not that, hey, I got to give up my whole life, but if I can save $5 here on clothes, or $10 here on food, or $15 on transportation, or all this little $5, $10 stuff doesn't seem like much, but at the end of the day, or I should say at the end of the month, it adds up to maybe a couple $100, and then you build up your savings, and then you put a plan. And I have a step-by-step program that I put in there that says exactly what to do. And what's cool about it is the same stuff that I did. It's not like, okay, here I am. I have no idea what it feels like to live paycheck to paycheck. I have no idea, how it feels to have little or no hope. But I do. I was exactly where a lot of people were at. We're just struggling with their finances and thinking, gosh, I'm just never going to be able to get out of it. But, the first thing, you just have to have that mindset that, hey, being in debt is not good. It doesn't make me feel good. And the only way for me to feel better is to get out of debt. And like I says, my book it lays it out very simply and concisely, and like I says, it's not what you know, it's what you do. And each week, in the book, it gives the reader challenges to complete. And if they challenge it, I have no doubt at the end of the 6 weeks, their financial picture is going to be different. But like I says, a lot of people, they say they want to do stuff differently, but it's until they start taking those necessary steps for things to start changing for them.
So what is one step that somebody could take today, right now, to reduce debt?
It's simple, and it's like I'm not trying to be funny, but you got to quit using your credit card. Is that I'd always use my credit card, and for me to get out of debt, that was my first thing. I quit using my credit cards, and that was step number one. The next step is that I had to figure out where my money was going. I mean, most people know what they make, but they have no idea where it's going, or at least the majority of their money, they have no idea where it's going. So, once I started tracking my expenditures, I was able to identify stuff that I was wasting that I could just cut out completely. And then there were certain things that, it's like I have to buy food, but there's like smarter things. Maybe, I didn't go out to eat every single day for lunch, or if I was going to go out to eat with a family, I didn't go every weekend. Maybe I went once a month. So I was able to, just kind of, fine-tune my spending plan, and then, I was able to take that money, and then I built my savings. And a lot of people say, why do you build your savings when you have credit card debt? Because, credit cards charging you 16% interest, and maybe your savings account, you're earning nothing. I always found that whenever I was concentrating on my debt, something would always come up, like, my car transmission would go out, or I'd have to take my, dog to the vet, and I'd always get those surprising bills, and I'd always have to use my credit card. So I got smarter, and I built my savings. And once I was able to build my savings, when those emergencies came up, I didn't have to rely on my credit card.
Yep.
And then, once I built up my savings, then I started taking that extra money, and I started paying down my debt. And like I said, there's many different ways to do it. I mean, there's basically two ways. You can pay more towards the debt with the highest interest rate and less towards the ones with the smaller, or, they have the snowball method where, you kind of want to knock out the smallest debt. It's like, I really don't care which plan that people use. So I talk about it in the book. I give them two alternatives, but the most important thing is make a plan and stick with it. And, if you make good choices and you continue doing the right stuff, you'll get good results.
That's awesome. I'll say one of the successes I've had in my own personal life is I used to be terrible at savings, and I read a book many years ago, The Automatic Millionaire, where they say just have money taken out of your account each month to go into savings. So a piece of every paycheck just goes into a savings, so you don't even get to touch it. And it's the only way that I save, because otherwise I would just spend my entire paycheck.
Yeah, and that's great. I mean, it's great advice. Is like nobody loves you more than you. So why are you paying your credit card companies, your car? Why are you paying all these other people first? The first person you should always pay is yourself. And you can either do it through your retirement account or just automate your savings. I mean, set it up like a bill pay, because most of us we do online bill pay. So you just set up an online bill pay and put money directly into your savings.
Yes.
And what I did is I had to actually take my savings account and put it at a different bank, because what would happen was that I'd have my checking and savings at the same bank, and I'd always seem to run out of money, and I'd always take the money from savings and directly put it back into my checking. So I actually put my money into a different financial institution, and I didn't put a debit card, so I couldn't get the money.
Yes.
And, that was something I was able to do that really helped me build my savings and kept me, it kept me from being tempted to use it so quickly.
I love that. That's great advice. All right. We have with us Steve Repak, who wrote the 6-Week Money Challenge. You can check out his book on Amazon or Barnes & Noble. I'm going to just do a quick recap, and then I've got a few more questions for you. So according to Steve, hope is not enough. You need to change behavior when it comes to paying off debt and getting yourself to financially sound. Also, remember that you did not get into debt overnight, so you won't get out of it overnight. It's a process, and creating a strategy to do that. You have to have a better mindset about money, so that in general, you'll feel better just by getting out of debt without having the overhead of payments for credit cards, etc. Quit using your credit card. That's the easiest step you can do right now in order to reduce debt. Build a savings account for emergencies and then to pay off debt. Make a plan and stick to it. Automate your savings, and I love the idea of putting your savings account in a different bank where it's more difficult to access, no debit card, etc. Steve, there's so many personal financial books out there. What makes your personal finance book different than the others?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's when you take my book, is that there's a lot of times that we read a book and it provides all this great information, but we're not able to apply it. Mm-hmm. But for this, I have a 6-week challenge where each week I give the reader 4 challenges that I would like them to complete, and then they come up with their own challenge that makes it relevant to them. So, for example, we have our spending challenge or a savings challenge, or I also have stuff that's usually not in most finance books. Talk about estate planning and insurance. So I cover a lot of different areas that aren't in most books, and then I've made it short, clear, and concise. Because with most finance books, they're just long and boring with a bunch of gibberish that puts you to sleep. So I wanted to keep things very short, concise, simple, that for people that have no idea, that they can't even spell finances, is able to read and go through it and work through the challenges, and at the end of the 6 weeks be in a better place than they started off at.
That's great. For so many people, personal finance is a subject that causes just distress in general. What encouragement can you give or offer to those who feel discouraged about their own financial situation?
You got to keep things simple. Finances, believe it or not, are really simple. It's income minus expenses, and you should have a positive number. I mean, and we try to make things a lot harder. Like I said, we know what we make, but we have no idea what we spend. But if we could figure out, hey, this is how much we're spending, this is the stuff that I can reduce to have more money. Because that's what, at the end of the day, you want to spend less money than what you make. That's the only way that you're going to have more money. Mm-hmm. And if you keep it simple like that and just focus more on the behaviors, it's not what you know or what you say, it's what you actually do. That's what means the most. And I tell people this, is that, you could read all these books on how to, make millions overnight. There's just no such thing as that. Is that the people that save a little bit each day and they do it day after day, they're the ones that get the results. So it's not that, I'd rather you put money away. That's more important than where to put it away, because most people, they're concentrating on, I don't understand this or understand that, and at the same time, they're not putting any money away. So, the main goal is that, hey, whatever you're making, try to set at least, 5 to 10% of what you make and put it away into savings or put it away somewhere else. You just don't want to spend it, and don't make things so difficult. And something that might help you that I really believe in is, I call them accountability partners. It's like if you had a goal to losing weight, hey, you meet with somebody that kind of holds you accountable. There's the same thing with your spending, and the finances are one of those subjects that's very, very private. But, if you want to get better at something, you got to have somebody that holds you accountable. And it's usually, you try not to use a spouse or something, because the spouses, they kind of usually seem critical. So, like my best friend is out of Birmingham, Alabama, and I call him my accountability partner. And he's somebody that kind of keeps me on track. So whenever I get off a whack, he'll kind of hit me upside the head and say, hey, Steve, you need to do this or do that to get back on track. But if you're having problems or having issues or stresses with your finances, find somebody that has their stuff together and just have them mentor you or, to keep you accountable and give you encouragement. Because at the end of the day, that's what we need. We don't really need people to tell us what we did wrong. We need people to encourage us that, hey, this is what you need to do to do things right. And if you have that, it just makes your life a lot less stressful.
Okay, that's great. Last question for you, because we only have about 2 more minutes. If we're being realistic, and I know everybody's a different case, but in general, how long will it take most people to become debt-free if they apply the principles in the book and commit themselves to reaching their goals?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's one of those things I say it's not a one size fits all type of answer. I had $32,000 worth of credit card debt. It took me about 3.5 years. Like I said, it depends on how much you're able to cut out for your expenditures. I just know that if you go through the 6-week challenge, I have no doubt that at the end of the year you're going to have a good chunk of your debt paid off. I'm not going to guarantee that you're going to be debt free by the year end, but you should get a big chunk of it paid off.
Okay. So we have with us Steve Repak, 6-week money challenge. You can check out his book on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. And where can people find more information about you?
Yeah, they can go to my website, www.steverepak.com.
Okay, that's awesome.
Excellent. And you can buy the book on Amazon as well, right?
Yeah, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Target. I mean, it's sold all over right now.
Oh, excellent. That's great news. And what a great time of year for it to be out.
Yeah. Do a Google search, because like I said, everybody automatically goes to a certain bookstore, but like with anything, you want to shop for the best price. So I mean, I actually saw my book it was on Target online. It was actually the cheapest place to buy it, and like I said, it changes from day to day. But like I said, do a search for the 6-week money challenge and find the store that sells it to you the cheapest.
And what better time of year than January 1st? Everybody's working on their New Year's resolutions, and this is the book that can actually make it happen for people.
Great. That's excellent. Thanks for joining us on the show, Steve. We appreciate it.
Thanks, guys, for having me on. It's an honor.
Great. And remember, you can connect with us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and all of our social media with the hashtag GetRealWithBNS. Again, that's GetRealWithBNS or GetRealRadio. That's it for this edition of Get Real with Bob and Stacy. Tune in again next weekend for more.